Looked at if statements and I gave an assignment. So let's quickly do the solution to the assignment together. In that assignment, I said when you click on this button, let's load the button on the screen. So when I click on this button, it should place Paul here. So let's do that. We can have on click. So let's say, sorry, someone wants to join the class. So let's get a function called display name. So whenever this function is called upon, it will display Paul inside this button. So on click of this, sorry, so back to what I was saying. When you click on this button, you want to call on this function display name. So what this is going to do is that it will display Paul inside this button. So we can easily give this an ID. You can call it maybe username. So when you click on this, we can say username. Remember, a button is an uneditable container. So because of that, we're going to use inner text equals to Paul. So when you click on this button, it will call on this function. Then it will now set the inner text of this to Paul. Let's go to the browser and check it out. Sorry, Paul, but that was not all. Before we proceed, any questions so far? Can we proceed? Do you understand what I've done? Can you hear me? Is my network good? I want to be sure if we are fine. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Alright. Okay, so do you understand what I've done?
Not really.
Okay, this is it. When you click on this button, it will call on this function display name. So what this function is going to do is that, we are using this ID to target this button. So the ID dot inner text. I think to you that inner text is used for uneditable container, and a button is an uneditable container. It's one of the uneditable containers. So username, which is the ID of the button, dot inner text equals to Paul. So when you click on this button, the text inside the button changes to Paul, and that's why we have this. As regards our assignment, this assignment that I'm trying to do, only 2 persons submitted the assignment, which is not good enough. It's not good enough. And I told us that it's not a must to get it done, but major thing is for you to make an attempt, and you submit your attempt. Let's see what you try out. Not that you won't attempt it and leave it and then wait for correction in the next class. You learn programming by doing, not by watching. No matter how much you watch programming videos, you will not learn as much as you are going to learn if you do it yourself, if you practice. You learn programming by practicing, not by just watching videos, especially when you're just starting out. You learn programming by practicing. Code. Okay, let's proceed. But this is not what we want, or should I say this is not all. Now this has changed to Paul. But what I want to do is that when I click on this Paul again, it should change back to Peter. So meaning that we need to find a way to know if the text inside this button, if it's either Peter or Paul. That is, if it is Paul, when you click on it, it will change to Peter. And if it is Peter, when you click on it, it will change to Paul. So let's find a way to get the text inside this place. If you're able to do that, we can now check if it is Peter, then change it to Paul. And if it is Paul, change it to Peter. Let's do that together. So we can create a variable. Let's put in text. I call it btn text. Username dot inner text. What you are doing is that when you click on this button, it will call on this function display name. It will run the code N. It will say username dot inner text. Save it as variable btn text. So btn text will stand for whatever you have inside this button. So at this point, btn text will be Peter. So we can now say if btn text if is equal to Peter, then change what is inside this to Paul. The good thing is that the two persons that submitted, they got it right. But I want you to attempt this more. So check if it is Peter. If it is Peter, then set the text inside this to Paul. But if it is not Peter, then else set the text inside it to Peter. That is, if it's anything else aside Peter, maybe if it is Paul, then change it to Peter. Username dot inner text equals to Peter. So what you're doing is that when you click on it, it will get whatever is inside this place, the text inside it. Save it as variable btn text. It will check if it is Peter. If it is Peter, then it will set the text to Paul. But if it is not Peter, then it will set the text to Peter. So when you click on it the first time, remember at the initial part, it will start with Peter. The text inside this place is Peter. So when you click on it, it will run this code. btn text will be Peter. It will check this condition. Is it Peter? Yes, it is Peter. So it will change it to Paul. Change to Paul, then it will stop. When you click on it again now, remember we now have Paul inside this place. We now have Paul here. When you click on it again, it will get the text inside this button. Now it is Paul. So btn text will be Paul. It will check if it is Peter. No, it's not Peter. So it will come to the else part and it will put Peter inside the place. Any questions so far? Any questions so far? If you understand it, say I understand it.
I understand, sir.
Alright. If you don't understand, say I don't understand. Okay. So that is the solution to the
Thank you.
you're welcome. So now I can click.
This is Sherifat.
Oh, Sherifat. You're welcome.
Yes. Thank you.
So what's going on? This is not changing. Okay, good. It's working. So let's go to today's task. So today is going to be continuation of our last class. We started if statements. We looked at if else in the last class. So today we're going to look at if else if. If else if. And we're going to see situations to use if else if. When should you use if else if? So sorry, before we proceed, two persons submitted the assignment, Zakaria and Sherifat. Thanks for submitting the assignments, the two of you. I hope that more people will submit this one that I'm going to give after tonight's class. Now, if else if. In our last class we looked at this. If I have a variable, we'll do something like this. If a is equal to 6, alert hello else, that is if a is anything outside 6. So someone has to join. So if a is anything else aside 6, then this can alert I. So based on what we learned in the last class, this is going to alert hello because a is 6. But if it were to be, let's say, 7, it's going to alert I because this condition will no longer be met, and that is if else. But if else if, what this is meant for is that it allows us to run different sets of commands, based on different conditions. What do I mean? Let's say I have a variable and I want to do some things if a is equal to 1. Let's say if a equals to 1, I want to say alert good morning. If a equals to 2, I want to do something. No, if else only allows us to do one out of 2 commands. It only allows us to do one out of 2 sets of commands, either this or this. If this condition is to do the first one, if it's not to do the second one, that is if else. But if else if allows us to run different sets of commands based on different conditions. So I can say else if say good afternoon, we can do something like this. Variable time. So from let's say from 0 to let's say 11, from 0 to 11 we want to say good morning. So if time if it's lesser than 12, we say good morning. Right, then next is if time if it's lesser than afternoon. Let's say afternoon is till 4 p.m. That's 16. If it's lesser than 16, give us good afternoon. Else if time, let's say if it's lesser than 20, that's 8 at night, alert good evening. Then finally, if time if it's lesser than 24, then tell us good night. Sorry, someone is about to join the class. So we have this. Time is 11. Is 11 lesser than 12? Hello everybody. Is 11 lesser than 12? Hello?
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you. 11 is lesser than 12. For that reason, it will alert good morning.
Good morning.
So that's good morning. Now, let's change the value of time to 14. Is 14 lesser than 12? No. So for that reason, it will come here. So the only reason it will come to this part is because this condition is not so. I come again. The only reason it will come to this else if is because this if part, this first one, is not so. Meaning that if this were to be true, it will never come to this part. That's the way if else if works. it will only visit the else if the first if condition is not met. So the only reason to come here is because the first one is not met. So is time lesser than 16? Yes, 14 is lesser than 16. For that reason, it will alert good afternoon. Let's change the value to 18. Is 18 lesser than 12? No. So it will come to this part. Is 18 lesser than 16? No. So it will come to this part. So the only reason it will come to this part is because this one is not so. If this were to be true, it's not going to visit this. So in this case, this will alert good evening. Then let's say time is 22. Is 22 lesser than 12? No. Is 22 lesser than 16? No.
No.
Is 22 lesser than
No.
20? No. Is 22 lesser than 24? Yes. So to give us good night. Now look at something. Let's say 1. 1 meets all of these conditions. 1 is lesser than 12, right?
Yes.
1 is lesser than 16, 1 is lesser than 20, 1 is lesser than 24. So 1 meets all of these conditions, but it will only give you good morning because the only reason why it will come here is if this condition is not met. And since 1 is lesser than 12, that means it will meet this condition, and for that reason, it will give you good morning and it will stop. So the way else if works is that if the previous if condition is not met, then it will go to the else if. But if it is met, then it's not going to go to the else if. Do we understand it? Any question? Any question? Any question? Okay. So here we have good morning. Let's proceed. What if maybe the value of time is 30? Let's just assume. If the value of time were to be 30, then it is not going to do any of them because it's not going to meet any of the condition. Any of these conditions, it's not going to meet any of them. 30 is not lesser than 12, 30 is not lesser than 16, 30 is not lesser than 20, 30 is not lesser than 24. So it's not going to do any of them. For that reason, you can now end it with a final else. Maybe alert. Nothing to do. So if it doesn't meet any of these conditions, then it will come to this final else. Note the difference. This does not have any condition. It does not have any if. It does not have any condition. So, and it's always the last one. That is, if it doesn't meet any of them, then come to this. So you make use of this in case you still want to do something if none of the conditions is met. So if I run this now, it will display nothing to do. Do you have any question? Okay, let's proceed. Let's look at a situation whereby if let's have a variable let a equals to 7, if a equals to 8, let's say hey, if a is greater than 5, and that's hello world. Is lesser than 10, alert. Okay, let's look at this. Let's look at this. If I run this code, you will agree with me that it's not going to meet this condition, right? Because 7 is not equal to 8. But it will meet this because 7 is greater than 5. So it's going to alert hello world. Now, based on my previous explanation, I said the only reason is to go to the next else if is if the previous condition is not met. So that might make one believe that it won't come here. But when we run this code, it will do this and it will also do this. I come again. If you run this code, it will do this part and it will also do this part. The reason is this. What we have here is not else if. If it were to be else if, it will only do this part without coming here. Because the only reason why it will come here is if this condition here is not met. I come again. The only reason it will come here is if the condition here is not met. So in this case, this will only give us hello world. Of course, 7 is greater than 5. And for that reason, it will alert hello world and stop there. Hello world, that's all. But this is a different situation. In this case, it will alert hello world and it will also alert good day. It first alert hello world, then it will alert good day. Reason is this. The two of them are two separate if statements. How do you know that? An if statement starts with if. An if statement starts with if, or we call it an if block. An if block starts with if. So this is an if block. And this is another if block. So whatever happens in this if block does not affect what happens here. If this were to be else if, then that means we only have a single if block here. All of this now will just be a single if block. All of this, it will just be a single if block. And in an if block, it can only do one thing. Let's come again. How do you know an if block? All you need to do is, where is the, you just look for the word if. I'm not talking about else if now. An if that does not have any else. Just look for if. So this is the beginning of an if block. In an if block, it can only execute one command there. That is either the one here, or the one here, or the one here, or even none of them, if none of the conditions is met. But if you have this like this is an if block, and this is another if block, a separate if block that is independent of whatever happens here. So this is going to alert hello world, and this will alert good day. Any question? Hello world, good day. Okay. So we've looked at that. Let's do classwork together on this. Let's say I have an input like this. I have a div, then I have a button, okay, so click me. What I want to do is this. A rainbow has 7 colors, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like beef. So a user will type a number here. If the number inside this place is 1, then the color of this div will be red. That's what I'm saying is this. If it is 1, it will be red. If it is 2, it will be orange. If it is 3, it will be yellow. It is 4, it will be green. If it is 5, it will be blue. if it is 6, it will be indigo. Then if it is 7, it will be violet. And what if it's none of them? What if the person typed a number that is not among these 7? Let's just make it black. Make all other numbers black. So let's do this together. So the user will type a number here, click on this button, then it will adjust the color of this div. So what I'm going to do is that let's give this a little style pattern or height. Let's give it height and width. Height. Alright, let's say 80 by 80 pixel width. So 80 pixel. So someone is about to join. So next is let me give it a color. The reason I want to give it this first color is just to see if everything is fine. Background color, let's use any color first, black. So first, if everything is fine, good. We have this. This looks too big. Div height. Oh, sorry. Okay, good. So next is I'll remove this background color so that it will be back. So I just use this to confirm if everything is fine before we proceed. So next is the user will type a number here. Then when you click on this button, you will get whatever number the user types and use it to adjust the color of this div. So give this an ID so that it can easily track it. I can call it IMP. Then give this also an ID so that you can track it also. I can call it my div. Let's use display. I think I love using display. You can use anything of your choice. So on click of this button, create a function. Let's say change color. Let's just call it change color. Then on click of this button, you want to call on function change color. So when you click on this, you call on this function, and the function will be the ones who want to do that for you. Now, before we proceed, if there's any part of this that you don't understand, let me know. Is there any part of what we've done that you do not understand? Okay. So firstly, you want to get whatever the user typed here. So let's call it user input equals to, remember we are using value because this is an editable container. So you're getting whatever user typed here. You are saving that variable user input. If user input if is equal to 1, remember in our last class I told you that anything you get from an input like this or text you get from an input using value, inner text, anything, it's always a string. It will always come as a string. So this user input is a string, and that's why this is within quotes. If it's equal to 1, then you want to change the background color of this. So you call on the ID, which is display dot. You are targeting this style dot you want to set the background color. Now you can't, in CSS we would have done something like this, background color, and you set it to whichever. Just say I want to set it to blue. This will be like this. If you try to do the same thing in JavaScript like this, background color equals to blue, this will throw an error, being that you are not allowed to use hyphen like this. So what they've done for us is that instead of using this, you use camel casing. Notice this capital C. So all your CSS properties that have hyphen like this, like minimum height, margin top, margin bottom. You write it as camel casing. So margin bottom will be like this, margin bottom, like this, not like this. So let's remove this now. So this, what you're doing is that you are calling on the ID, this ID here, the style, you are targeting this style, the background color. For one is right, so this will be right. So let's see if that is working before we go to the second one. Good, that's working. So let's try to type. Let's try to undo others. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Else if user input is equal to 2, I'll just copy. Just copy this. Paste. Copy. For 3, yellow, 4, like that's green, 5, that's blue, 6, that's indigo, then 7, that's a violet. That's what I did before we handle the last part. So if it is 1, it will be red. If it is 2, it will be orange. If it is 3, it will be yellow. If it is 4, it will be green. If it is 5, it will be blue. If it is 6, it will be indigo. If it is 7, it will be violet. Any questions so far? 5, yellow, 7, violet, 1. Right. Any questions so far? Okay, so let's undo this part. Okay. Yes, you can also write it like this. Someone is asking this question that what if we use document.getElement by ID? Yes. As I once explained, what you are doing is that this one that you wrote, it will also work. You don't need to put the hash. You can just remove the hash. But every other thing is fine. Document.getElement by ID. Just remove the hash. The ID already tells JavaScript that you are using ID. You don't need to put the hash again. Then display the style, the background color. Yes, that will work fine. That will fine. Okay. So, but for other colors aside, let's say I typed 20. You know, that is not changing it. We want to change it to black if it is any other thing aside this. So we can now end it with a final else. That is, this else will not have any condition. Any other thing aside this one stated there, aside 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, any other thing aside that, then let it be black. So let's type 56, that will be black. So we've been able to create this this rainbow to just to play with with else if. Let's proceed. Next is we want to talk about logical operators. When we are done with that, I'll give us an assignment. Logical operators in JavaScript. There are 3 logical operators that we're going to be considering tonight. The first is not. The second is or, and the third is and. Not, or, and. Let's look at the first one, not. I'll clear the rest claim. not or and. The not is used to negate something, that is opposite of something. If you say this is a car, the opposite of that is this is not a car, right? So in JavaScript, if I have a variable if a is equal to 10, alert a, else alert her. Of course, a is equal to 10, so it's to alert a. But we can say if a is not equal to, the symbol for not in JavaScript is exclamation mark. So this is saying if a is not equal to 10, alert a, else alert r. So let's assume this is 4. What will this give us? Will this give us a, or it will give us r?
It will give us a.
Okay.
A.
Okay. So we have a, we have r. If you are in support of a, say a. If you are in support of r, say r.
A.
Okay, thank you. So this will give us a. Reason is this. Value of a is 4. The condition says if a, which is 4, if it's not equal to 10. Of course, 4 is not equal to 10. That means this condition is true. Do you understand? The condition says if the value of a is not equal to 10. So let's say a is 50. 50 is not equal to 10. That makes this condition true. And as long as this condition is true, it will not decode here. Do we understand?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
It will only give you r if the value of a is 10, because this condition will no longer be true. The condition says if a is not equal to 10. So this will only give you r. But if this value of a were to be any other thing aside 10, then it's always alert a. Don't worry, we'll still look at truth table tonight. Truth table, and it will make it this time easier. That is for not. Not is used to negate something, opposite of something. Let's look at the second one. Or. Now for or, it will not decode here. Let's say this is if it's greater than 2. The symbol for or in JavaScript is this. Where is it? This. You write it twice. If a is greater than 2 or b is lesser than 20. Now for or, it will not decode here if any of the two conditions is met, if any of them. That is, if this is true or this is true, it will not decode here. It only needs one of them to be true. As long as at least one of them is true, then it will alert a. So I want to ask you, is the value of a greater than 2? Is the value of a greater than 2?
Yes.
Thank you.
Greater than 2.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. 10 is greater than 2. Good. 10 is good. Because this condition is true, in fact, it won't bother checking this one again. I come again. A is greater than 2. Once it sees this or, it will not even bother itself to check this. It only needs one of them to be true. So because this condition is true, it will alert A. Let's look at another scenario. Now, is A greater than 2? Is A greater than?
No.
Aha, thank you. So this condition is not met. So it will go to the second one. Check. Is B lesser than 20?
Yes.
Yes. So because this condition is true, remember, or is joining the two conditions together. This or is joining the two together. So because this part is true, so it will alert A. Like again, or only needs one of them to be true. So since this is true, then it will alert A. Let's assume this is 60. Is A greater than 2?
No.
Okay, thank
No.
you. Thank you. Is B lesser than 20?
No.
Thank you. Thank you. So because the two conditions are false, none of them is true, it will jump to the else. And it will alert her. So or only needs one of them to be true. Let's move on. Let's look at the next one. And any question?
No, sir.
Okay. So the last one is and. For and, the symbol for and in JavaScript is this double ampersand, like this. Double ampersand. For and, before it can run the codes here, the two conditions must be met. This must be true, and at the same time, this must be true. If one of them is not met, it's not going to run the codes here. It will jump to the else. That means, if this was to be 10, of course, 10 is greater than 2. It meets this condition. But it does not meet the second condition because 60 is not lesser than 20. So although one of the conditions is true, the other is false. So since one of them is false, it will jump to the else part. It will alert R, not A. Before it can run the codes here, both conditions must be met. Let's move on. Let's say this is 6. 10 is greater than 2, yes. 6 is lesser than 20, yes. Both conditions are met. So it will alert A. That is for and. Let's now look at something interesting on this before we look at truth table. In fact, what we're about to check now or talk about now will be the one to lead us to truth table. I will comment out all of this code and do something together. In JavaScript, if you say if so alert, let me alert my entire else alert my twin sister's name kinda. I have this. If so, alert taye, else alert kinda. You see, if I run this code, it will alert taye. Is it? And if I put false here, it will alert kinda. Now what JavaScript does is that what it needs is that it only needs either true or false here. It only needs one of them. If it sees true here, it will do whatever you have here. And if it sees false here, it will do whatever you have in the else part. I come again. If it sees true here, it will do whatever you have in the if part. If it sees false, it will do whatever you have in the else part. So whenever you write any condition, just like these ones, whenever you have any expression here, JavaScript ends up converting whatever expression you have here to either true or false, no matter how long the expression might be. I come again. Whatever expression you have at the end of the day, it ends up becoming either true or false. So if at the end of the day JavaScript converts it to true, then it will not decode here. And if at the end of the day JavaScript converts it to false, then it will go to the else and not decode there. So it only needs true or false. So, but without expression, of course, you hardly see something like this. You hardly see something like this. But internally, JavaScript will convert whatever you put here to either true or false. If it's able to convert it to true, then it will do this if part. And if it's able to convert it to false, then it will do the else part. Why is this necessary? Why am I telling you this? Now, this here now, like I said, end up being converted to either true or false. How will JavaScript now, how is it able to convert it to true or false? That brings us to truth table. If you have in the truth table we have and we have let's first look at the and. For the and, if you have true and true, the result is true. If you have true and false, the result is false. If you have false and true, the result is false. If you have false and false, the result is false. So these are our truth table. For all, if you have true or true, the result is true. True or false, the result is true. False or true, the result is true. False or false, the result is false. So it's easy to know. For and, the only instance where you have true is if both of them are true. Else, you always have false. For or, the only instance where you have false is if both of them are false. Else, others are true. So let's see how this is applicable to this task. Let's see how we can use that to solve this. Is a greater than 2? I'm asking us now, is a greater than 2? Hello?
Yes,
Okay, that is true. No, this is and. Is b lesser than 20? That is also true. B is lesser than 20. So at the end of the day, we have 2 and 2. From our truth table, what is 2 and 2? 2 and 2 gives us 2. 2 and 2 gives us 2. So meaning that at the end of you said? Hello? Okay. So,
Hello.
hello, I can hear you. I think someone was saying something.
Am I unmuted?
I can hear you, I can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes.
And I'm muted here. I'm just following what you are saying.
Okay.
I'm trying to hear what you're saying.
Alright. Okay. So 2 and 2. 2 and 2 is 2. So meaning that the resultant of all of this is 2. And remember I said whenever you have 2 here, that means it will run the code here. That's the reason you will see A. That's the reason you will see A. Then another thing you also need to know is order of precedence. Order of precedence. Just like you have board mass in mathematics, that is bracket of division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction in this order. Also, we have order of precedence here. Bracket comes first, followed by not, followed by and, followed by or. Why is this necessary? Let's look at this. Oh, sorry, this is number 4. If this was to be inside a bracket, that means this will first be evaluated before this, because bracket comes first, followed by not, followed by and, followed by or. So let's use this order of precedence now to solve this problem. In this order of precedence, first need to tackle this part. All of this is inside the bracket, so the bracket comes first. Is b lesser than 20? That is 2. Or is c equals to 7? That is false. So what is 2 or false? From our truth table, we are looking at this bracket first. We are handling whatever you have inside this bracket. From our truth table, 2 or false is 2. 2 or false is 2. So that means all of these parts end up being converted to 2. So the results will now be joined with this. Is a greater than 2? Yes, a is greater than 2. That is 2. So you now have 2 and 2. From our truth table, 2 and 2 will give you 2. So if you run this code, this will alert a. Do we understand? This bracket comes first. Then, when it's done, whatever result this gets, it will now combine it with this part. Now, still talking on order of precedence. Now let's look at this, and how it's going to solve this. We have a greater than 2 or b lesser than 20 and c equals to 7. You see, it will first do this one because and comes before or. It will first combine these two together. Whatever result this gives it, it will now join it with this one because and comes before or. So it will first say, is b lesser than 20? That is 2. And is c equals to 7? That is false. What is 2 and false? 2 and false is false. From our truth table, where is it here? 2 and false is false. So all of these parts now will give you false. Then whatever result this gives it, it will now combine it with these parts. So is a greater than 2? Yes, that is 2 or false. So 2 or false is 2 from your truth table. 2 or false is 2. So it means the final result here is 2. Then to alert A. One way to easily do this, I think this one will be simpler. One way to do this is you first write everything out. Is a greater than 2? That is 2. Or is b lesser than 20? That is 2. And is c equals to 7? That is false. You first do everything out. Then you now bring in the order of precedence. This comes first. What is 2 and false? From your truth table, 2 and false is false. So meaning that all of these parts give you false. Then we now have 2 of false. 2 of false is 2. So it means the final result is 2. And for that reason, it will alert A. Any question on this order of precedence?
Well understood, sir.
Okay. Let's move on. We want to look at Boolean. We've been dealing with numbers and maybe strings, but let's look at Boolean. So will this give me A or good? Hello?
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir. Will this give me A or good? If I run this code, will this give me
It will
A?
be good.
Good. Thank you. This will give
It
me
will be good.
good. Thank you. It will be good because A is 2 and the condition says if A is equal to false. So for that reason, it will give me good. Thank you. If this has to be false, then that means it will give me A. Because now if A equals to false, so it will give me A. But now let's look at something interesting. Sometimes you may see something like this. If A. And you may be like, or you may feel like, oh, will this give me A? Will this give me good? Remember I said in your if block, it only expects either true or false. If it sees true here, it will do whatever you have here. If it sees false here, it will do whatever you have in the else part. So by just saying if A, remember the value of A here is false. This is just like saying if false. Do you understand? By saying if A, since the value of A is false, it's just the same as saying if false. And remember, if it sees false here, it will jump to the else part. So for this reason, this will alert good. And if the value of A were to be true, if you say if A, this is like saying if true. So this will alert A. Let's look at it together. A. If I change this to false, this will give me good. Now, why? Let's look at some of those things that you might see. What if you now have 7 and you have if A? Remember I said it only needs to say either true or false. Irrespective of whatever you have here, it will convert it to either true or false. So if you just put if A, that means this A, which is 7, must be converted to either true or false. This brings us to something we call truth and false. This 7 will be converted to either true or false. If it is converted to true, then it will alert this. If it is converted to false, then it will alert this. So how does it know if 7 will be converted to true or false? You see, JavaScript converts some things to true. And we now say all of those things that are converted to true, they are called truth. I come again. JavaScript converts some things to true. So we say everything JavaScript converts to true, we call them truth. While some things are converted to false, everything JavaScript converts to false are called false. Now, a lot of things are truth, but only I think 6 or 7 of them are false. So instead of checking everything that are truth, we can easily pick out those 6 things that are false. 6 things that are false. If anything is not among these 6 things that are false, then we assume that it is truth. That is, JavaScript will convert it to true. So these are the things JavaScript convert to false. False itself, 0, undefined, empty string, null, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It means 1, 0, false, undefined, empty string, null. It means 1.
Not a number.
Yes, thank you. Not a number. Thank you. So these are the 6 things that are seen as false. Anything outside of these 6 is seen as truth. So let's look at that. Let's assume this is 0. So remember, 0 is among this. So it is false. This is like saying if false, so that means it will alert good. Meanwhile, if this were to be 5, it will alert A, because 5 is not among the 16 that are false. Look at this. Let's look at this empty string. This can be a bit confusing. This is false. This will alert good, right? But this is not false. This is not false. It has a value. So this will alert A. Why is this necessary? Let's look at situations whereby this, what I just explained, will be very necessary. Imagine you have an input and you have a button. You want to check if a user maybe typed a value here, then do something. If, let's give this an ID. Okay. So on click of this button, call on the function func. So you want to get whatever the user type here. Let's say var equals to imp.value. If var alert this is to house alert this is not so. So let's say we have this. When you click on this button, it's going to call on this function. It will get whatever is inside this input and save it as var. So we are saying if var, give us this is to, else give us this is not so. Remember, we talked about tutti and false. Empty string is false. Here, I'm not going to type anything. This is empty. So it's going to be false. And for that reason, it will come to the else part and tell you this is not so. Now this is not. Everything seems to be working fine. But look at this. I'll come here, put a space. Now there is a space there. And when you click on this button now, it will tell you this is true. Because the value of var now looks like this. Like it now looks like this. That empty space. Before you typed anything, it was like this. But immediately you put an empty space there, it's now like this. So it has made it to be, tutti. And for that reason, it will do these parts. I hope you understand. This is true. This is not false. This here is true. When you click, it will do the if part, not the else. Not the else. But this is false. If there's nothing there, this is false. I think. Oh, there's still a space. Okay, so this is not so. Right. Any question? Any question? Any question? So this we've talked about tutti and false assignments. You want to do a CGPA calculator. A CGPA calculator. You will tell the user, okay, let's do this. In your CGPA calculator, there will be an input and a button. Get student calculates get CGPA, get student class. Let's have this. So inside this, you type the student CGPA. So you type the student CGPA here. If the student CGPA, if it's between 0 to 0.99, it will display fail. If it's between 1 to 1.49, it will display pass. If it's between 1.5 to 2.5, sorry, 2.49, it will display dot class. If it's between 2.5 to 3.49, it's a display. If it's between 3.5 to 4.49, it's a display. If it's between 4.5 to 5.0, it's a display. Then anything outside of all of this, it will tell you invalid input. So you can display the result in a div. Just place a div down here. So if the user type, let's say 0.2, the fail will be displayed inside this div. If the user type, let's say 1.4, pass will be displayed inside this. So whatever it wants to display, to display in this div. Any question as regards this? Hello?
I don't think there. No question, sir.
Alright. So please, I want us to attempt this as much as possible. Attempt this. Yeah, thanks for coming. Good night.